I'll take it from here, Annette. Thanks. Your associate mentioned you offer kinetic assessment demonstrations of our weaknesses?
That's our premium service.
Oh, we're a premium bank.
You want me to break into your bank? Right now?
That's what you do, isn't it?
Walk with me, nice and casual.
Liam McCaffrey, a well-known crime boss, dies in prison from old age. With him gone, his dangerous network fades away for good. Meanwhile, in Buffalo, the hero couple Dan and Jessica Morgan are excited for their anniversary. Jessica reaches the hotel bar first, while Dan talks to her on the phone and guides her toward their room. At the same time, he climbs the outside of the hotel because he wants to surprise her before she walks in. Jessica admires the necklace on the bed, smiling at the surprise. Dan steps in behind her, turning the moment into a warm reunion. They share a quiet break together, talking about all the years they've enjoyed as a couple. But just when the night starts to feel perfect, their older son, Kyle, calls them home because young Max puked on their new couch. Dan and Jessica drop everything and rush back without complaints, showing how much they care about their family. A few weeks later, Thanksgiving brings the Morgans to Jessica's parents' home, where the day turns into a mix of laughter, noise, and friendly chaos. Everyone is in a cheerful mood, and Dan keeps an eye on things, stepping in at the right moments to stop small problems before anyone notices. It's the kind of day that reminds them why they love family gatherings. During dinner, Nina joins on a video call from London, where she's studying journalism. She lights up when she hears that Jessica has been offered the head coach job at Ohio State University and tells her to go for it. Jessica, now a triathlete coach, hesitates because she worries about asking Dan to leave Buffalo, but Nina gently tells her to talk to him as soon as she can. A few days pass. Dan decorates the house for the holidays, trying to keep the usual family excitement alive. His mood drops when Nina tells him she won't be coming home for Christmas. He begs her to reconsider because he wants their usual family celebration, but she stands firm. Not long after, Dan catches Kyle hacking his school's network and deleting all the students' grades as a prank. Dan scolds him, telling him to stop messing around and focus on school. The next morning at work, Dan finds a job offer in London. He now works as a security tester for big corporations. He sees a chance to visit Nina and decides on a quick security check at a bank, so he jumps at it. Later, while Kyle drives the family home, Dan excitedly shares his Christmas in London idea and tries hard to convince everyone. Kyle gets distracted by the conversation and nearly crashes the car, but they manage to reach home safely. A few days later, the family lands in London and is immediately taken in by the holiday lights and busy streets. Instead of waiting for Nina at the hotel, Dan decides to surprise her, so he takes everyone straight to her apartment. Nina opens the door and freezes when she sees them because she was supposed to meet them at a hotel. Kyle had a bathroom emergency, and he accidentally finds someone hiding in the room.
Whoa! Whoa!
No. Oh, just please let him go. It's fine. This is my boyfriend.
Turns out it's Omar, Nina's new boyfriend. She reluctantly introduces the half-naked Omar, and while everyone greets him politely, Dan studies him with concern. He doesn't like surprises when it comes to his daughter. Still, they all head out together for a walk through the lively city. Omar shows off some parkour tricks for the boys, which leaves Kyle impressed. But little Max tries to copy him, slips and falls on his face, sending Dan and Jessica running to him. The moment leaves Dan annoyed, and he pulls Omar aside to tell him he should be more careful around kids. Omar stays calm and even tells Dan not to be so overprotective, sharing that it damaged his own relationship with his father. The next morning, Nina meets the family at the hotel and spends quiet time with Jessica, reminding her again to bring up the Ohio job. Meanwhile, Dan heads to the bank for his security meeting. Nina takes her brothers to the park to give Jessica the chance to gather her courage. Inside the bank, Dan checks for weak spots when a man named Aiden Clark appears and asks him to demonstrate how someone could break into the vault right now. Dan leads him through restricted hallways, hacking security systems as they move toward the safe deposit area.
Where do you want to break into?
Safe deposit room?
This way. Oh wow, look at that. Good model. Except one weakness.
Let me guess. RF scanner?
Nah, good old-fashioned paperclip.
Excuse me, you can't be back here.
Something in your teeth. Reinforced steel.
Paperclip proof?
You need an actual card.
I didn't see you take that.
Neither did he.
But once they reach the boxes, Dan grows suspicious, grabs Aiden in a chokehold and demands to know who he really is. Aiden quickly shows Dan a photo of Jessica tied up, which forces Dan to release him. The man then calls Dan by his old criminal name, Sean McCaffrey, and reveals the truth. He isn't Aiden at all. He is Finn, Dan's half-brother, born from the affair their father had with the maid. Finn explains that Liam adored Dan but abandoned him, leaving him to grow up alone and angry. Jealousy and resentment slowly shaped his life, and now he wants what he believes he was cheated out of. Finn orders Dan to open one of the deposit boxes. Inside is a digital key that controls Liam's hidden empire. He warns Dan not to contact the police and demands that he take the blame for the break-ins so they can both walk out safely. With no choice, Dan pretends to hold Finn hostage as they leave the vault. Outside, Finn's men release Jessica, and Dan rushes to her side. He notices a gun taped to her hand, forcing them both to flee as sirens approach. Finn drives off with his crew and soon realizes Dan stole the key. Guessing their next move, he heads toward the Morgans Hotel. Dan calls Nina and tells her to gather the boys and Omar at the park, toss their phones and wait for their parents. They all manage to meet up, but Finn's group tracks them again. The family runs through crowded streets and finally boards a tour bus, hoping to lose them. Finn catches up and pulls a gun on Dan, demanding the key. Dan tackles him, and they fight through the narrow bus aisle until Jessica jumps in. She blinds Finn with fire-retardant foam, giving the family a brief opening. To draw Finn away and protect his family, Dan throws the key out of the bus window, forcing Finn to chase it. Later, when the family finds a moment to breathe, Dan explains that once Finn gets the key, he can access Liam's encrypted server, his hidden money, his hired killers, and a massive surveillance system. Their best chance is to leave England before Finn grows stronger. Nina refuses unless Omar comes with them. Meanwhile, Finn reaches Liam's mansion in Paris. He uses the key to convince Vikram, the old butler, to let him inside and heads to the office to unlock the server. The Morgans and Omar sneak into France, hidden in the back of a truck, and make their way to Paris. Dan takes everyone to the home of his ex-girlfriend Svetlana, a former Russian intelligence agent who used to help him during his past life. She lets them stay for a couple of days while they plan their next move. Dan asks her to send a message through the encrypted network so he can meet Finn and try to talk things out. Svetlana agrees and cooks dinner while the family settles in. At the table, she adores little Max because he drank all her soup. She forces the other kids to eat her food even though they clearly don't enjoy it. Later, Dan manages to arrange a meeting with Finn at a museum because there were metal detectors and Finn couldn't carry a firearm there. Hoping for a calm conversation, he heads out alone. But Finn tells him his childhood was filled with loneliness and pain, and he refuses Dan's offer to fix their relationship. Instead, he declares war.
I was your family.
If I'd have known you were my brother, I'd have been a brother to you. You end this right now. Stop trying to be dad. We can still be brothers.
Piss off. I'm taking what's mine.
Sorry to hear that.
After returning to the mansion, he contacts several assassins and places a bounty on Dan's head. Before the danger hits, Dan tries to lift everyone's spirits by taking them on a boat ride along the river. For a few hours, the family enjoys the lights, the music, and the Christmas mood in Paris. That night, after the kids fall asleep, Dan talks to Svetlana about how happy he felt spending the day with his family. She listens quietly, then admits she called Finn and revealed their location because the reward was too tempting. Dan struggles to process this, and she apologizes while explaining that the drink she gave him was drugged so the assassins could capture him. Panicking as the drug takes hold, Dan stumbles around the house trying to wake everyone. He falls over, unable to stand straight. Svetlana tells the family the truth and hands them the keys to her crappy car so they can escape before the assassins reach them. Kyle and Omar carry Dan while everyone rushes to the garage. Just as they reach the car, they hear footsteps outside. The assassins have already arrived. Jessica helps Dan into the back seat and urges Kyle to drive. Kyle slams the car into the garage door and breaks through, catching the attackers by surprise. The old car shakes, bumps, and scrapes as rookie driver Kyle does his best to keep them ahead of the shooters. After a tense and chaotic chase, the family manages to escape. They slow down only when they are sure no one is behind them. The next morning, the family gathers to talk through their choices. They can run and start a new life while Finn and the police chase them forever. Or they can turn themselves in, which would push Finn to expose Dan's old identity as Sean McCaffrey and send him straight to prison. No one wants either option and the mood sinks. Omar suggests reaching out to his father, but the family shuts the idea down before he can explain anything. Dan finally decides the only real way to stop Finn is to destroy the encrypted server inside the mansion. If the server goes down, all the money, all the files, and all the power Finn wants will disappear. Dan calls a family meeting, and everyone works together to form a plan. They agree the safest way in is via the roof. Kyle hands Dan a flash drive he created, built to wipe the server clean and erase all evidence tied to Sean McCaffrey. Dan hands out the gear he collected from Svetlana's house and then pulls Jessica aside. He tells her that if anything goes wrong, she must grab the kids and disappear without looking back. Before heading out, the family huddles together, and Dan finally accepts Omar as part of their team. Dan and Omar climb up to the mansion roof like they've done this 100 times before, while the rest of the family waits in the car with their equipment. Moving across the rooftop, the duo disables the cameras one by one. Dan then sneaks up behind one of the guards and recognizes him from his past. The guard tries to stir a fight, but Dan stays calm, disarms him, and forces him to tie himself up. When Dan turns away, the guard pulls out a hidden gun and aims at him. Dan reacts fast and knocks him out, which brings a wave of relief to the family listening through their earpieces. Kyle uses the guard's voice to trick Finn into thinking everything is normal around the mansion. Omar then disables the last camera and climbs down to the ground, where a group starts a loud protest. Nina spots the protest and jumps in immediately, shouting about environmental abuse and leading the crowd toward the mansion gates. As she moves away, police officers grab her and begin questioning her involvement. Omar sees this, causes another distraction and ends up getting arrested, which gives Nina the chance to slip away. While Finn watches the chaos outside, Dan quietly opens a ceiling window and drops into the attic, which used to be his old bedroom. The room is untouched, and seeing it sends him into a wave of memories. But Finn grows suspicious of the protest and heads upstairs to check things himself. He finds Dan inside the attic. The family hears everything through their earpieces as Finn shoots at Dan, but Vikram stops him at the last moment.
We have a room for things like this.
That's good to see you too, Vikram.
Dan leaves Kyle's flash drive behind on purpose before following Finn to the underground den. Finn then finds the communication units Dan was using and coldly tells the family they will never see him again. Fear spreads through the group until Kyle notices the flash drive on the floor. He tells everyone there's still a chance to help Dan. Jessica ignores Dan's earlier order to stay away and heads straight to the mansion. Jessica sprints across rooftops with surprising speed and reaches Dan's old room. She pauses for a moment, taking in the childhood memories, then spots the flash drive. Nina encourages her to keep going. Jessica enters the office to plug it in. In the underground den, Vikram tells Finn to stand Dan over a drain so the shot will be clean. Finn aims, ready to kill his brother, but Vikram suddenly pulls a lever and drops Dan through the floor into the sewer tunnel, saving his life. Finn is furious and confronts Vikram, who stands firm despite the danger. Upstairs, Jessica manages to plug the flash drive into the computer, giving Kyle full access to the system. He switches on the mansion's cameras so he and Nina can guide their mother. Jessica ducks into closets and side rooms as an assassin searches the office. When the woman finally leaves, Jessica jumps out and attacks, leading to a fierce fight. With Kyle and Nina watching through the cameras, Jessica pushes through the fear and knocks the assassin out. Below the mansion, Dan uses the tunnels to stay covered and takes out the hitmen one at a time. He knows every corner and uses the shadows to his advantage until the path is clear. Outside, Nina spots Finn's men approaching their car and urges Kyle to finish erasing the server files before they get caught. Jessica leaves the mansion and races to her kids. Inside, Finn discovers his worst nightmare. The server is hacked. Billions of dollars are gone. All the files are wiped clean. His hold on the empire vanishes in seconds. Furious, he promises to kill Dan and destroy everything he cares about. Jessica leads the kids through the city and reaches a carousel. After helping them dodge an assassin on their trail, she turns herself and the children in to the police, revealing their identities and asking for help. Back inside the mansion, Dan and Finn's fight reaches its peak. They slam into walls, furniture, and old equipment. After a long struggle, Dan finally overpowers Finn, ties him up, and leaves him hanging from the ceiling. When Dan steps outside, the police arrest him immediately, but he relaxes once he sees Jessica and the kids nearby in handcuffs too. Despite the chaos, they are relieved just to be together again. Moments later, Omar arrives with his father, who happens to be the Secretary General of Interpol. This shocks everyone. He steps in and clears the Morgans from all charges. With the danger behind them, Jessica gathers her courage and tells Dan about the Ohio job. He supports her without hesitation. 11 months later, the family is living peacefully in Ohio. Jessica loves her new role, Dan enjoys his quiet life, Max grows happily and Kyle studies in college. Nina runs her new green company, and Omar stays close through video calls. During one of those calls, Omar tells Dan he will visit for Christmas, which brings a smile to Dan's face. A month later, Dan visits Finn in prison. He brings him a matching jacket, hoping it will make him feel included for once. They sit together, play cards, and slowly rebuild the relationship they never had. Well, that's the end of this 2025 film, The Family Plan 2. How did you like this recap? Let me know in the comments below.